8th graders, welcome back. We are getting ready to work on Chapter 2. Remember in Chapter 1, we worked with equations, and now we're shifting gears just a little bit, and instead of doing equations, now we're going to do inequalities. And as you can see, I gave you a little definition here. An inequality is any statement where two quantities are not equal to each other. They could be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to. We need to put a little slash there. So if that's not there on your notes, go ahead and put a slash through that equal sign, because that will mean is not equal to. So example 1 in your book, I've actually skipped that one. Basically, it's identifying solutions of inequalities, and long story short, they gave you an inequality and gave you several numbers to plug in and see if it works. And so if it works, it's a solution, and if it doesn't work, it's not a solution. So it's really that simple. So I wanted to get into example 2 with you, where we're going to go ahead and graph each inequality. And there's a little bit of a system to this. If you are going to just graph a less than or a greater than, then what you're going to do is you're going to do something called an open circle over the number. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, then we're going to do a closed circle or filled in circle, just like that. That's going to be the designation we're going to put on our graphs, and you need to do the same thing. So let me do a couple with you and just kind of help you through this concept. So here we have b is less than negative 1.5. So I've given you this big number line here, and we want to get a couple of numbers on it. So let's kind of push 0 towards the end, and let's do negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay? And because we're talking about negative 1.5, now that's going to be halfway between negative 1 and negative 2. It's not marked, so you will need to mark it. And so I'll just kind of guess where that halfway point is, and I'll even put a little negative 1.5 there underneath it. Now, we're ready to graph this. We know that we're going to be doing a circle over negative 1.5. So our less than symbol tells us it needs to be an open circle. Now the reason why it's open is we're saying the answers start at negative 1.5 but don't include negative 1.5. So that's the reasoning. If it was less than or equal to, then we could include the negative 1/2, but because it's not equal to, we cannot. All right? Now, as you look at the symbol, kind of pay attention. Do you see that it's pointing towards the left? You can use a neat shortcut that I've taught my previous algebra students. As long as your variable is on the left side, and then it's your inequality, and then it's your number, then the direction your inequality is pointing is the direction you draw your arrow. It's pretty neat. You can do that. Now, if they reversed it and they said negative 1/2 is greater than b, now that doesn't work. You see it's pointing to the right, and you would be drawing it the wrong way, okay? You would be drawing this the wrong way. So it only works if the variable's on the left and the number is on the right. Then whatever direction that inequality symbol is pointing is the direction your arrow goes. So it's not effective doing it this way with the b on the right, okay? So I definitely wanted to point that out to you. But it does say b is less than negative 1.5. All the numbers that are smaller than negative 1.5 are to the left. So you can reason it, rationalize it that way as well. I'm getting smaller as I go left. I'm getting bigger as I go right. So this says is less than, that means smaller. So I do want to point to the left. Okay? Let's take a look at this one. This next one, we've got r is greater than or equal to 2. So right away, I can see I'm working with positive 2. So we could do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just get a couple of numbers up there. It doesn't have to be tons of numbers, just enough to kind of see a trend. And then we know we're starting at 2, and we're going to put our circle over 2. And so with an equal to sign, greater than or equal to, that means it's going to be a filled in circle. So we're going to fill in that circle. We're going to put it right above 2, and then it says greater than. So I want to put my line pointing the direction where all the numbers are bigger, greater than 2, and that would be to the right, just like that. And so it's pointing to the right. It's in the same format where we have variable first, our inequality symbol, and then the number. So the direction it's pointing is the direction you would draw your arrow, in case you were confused about that. Now remember, if it was written the other way, like this is not going to give you, can't use that little trick when it's written with the number first and then the variable. The trick doesn't work, okay? It only works if it's the variable, then your symbol, and then the number, okay? So, but you can still rationalize it out. Now, some of you may be wondering, why am I drawing, you know, my circle above the line? Why am I not doing it on the line? It's just harder to shade. It's harder for me I'd have to darken it a lot and kind of dig in and show it. I don't care how you do it, just make sure it's obvious and that it can be done and that I can see it. And if I can't see it and I have to guess, then I'm not going to be able to count that correct. So that's why I do it above the line. It's real simple. I see it, and that's the reason, in case you were just wondering. All right, so we're practicing graphing inequalities. Remember, this chart is very important. You may want to highlight that chart on your notes so to help you remember. Remember, if it's less than or greater than, we're going to do an open circle. If it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, do a filled in circle. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and work on example 3. This time, instead of giving us the inequality and having us graph it, this time they're going to give us the graph and we write the inequality. The best way I can tell you to do this is start with any variable, and that variable, it could be the first letter of your first name. I don't really care. It could be X. If that's your favorite variable, use that variable, okay? So I'm going to use X, and I'm going to start with my variable, and then I'm going to figure out my number. So here's 0, and I'm immediately next door, and it looks like we're going by 1. So this would be 1, 2, 3. That's what it looks like. We're going by ones. So it looks like I'm going to put 1 over here. Now I've got an open circle over the 1. So it's either greater than or it's less than. Well, which way is the arrow pointing? All the numbers to the right of 1 are bigger. So that means I'm showing all the numbers that are bigger than 0. Or bigger than 1. And so, but I'm not including 1, so I'm not going to write that equal to sign. So this is the inequality that represents that graph. Okay, now let's look at the one on the bottom. They gave us this graph. We've got a filled in circle over -3, so I'm going to pick my variable. I know it's going to be equal to because my -3 is filled in, that circle is filled in. And then the circle's over -3. So now I just have to decide, well, which inequality is it? Is it less than or equal to, or is it greater than or equal to? Now all the numbers looks like it's pointing towards the left. As you go left on a number line, numbers are getting smaller. So we're getting less than. Notice that my less than is pointing to the left and my arrow is pointing to the left on the number line. And so this would be the correct answer. X is less than or equal to -3. Okay? So hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you and it's not terribly difficult. Let's look at example 4, and this should wrap us up on section 2.1. So example 4, we have the members of a lightweight crew team can weigh no more than. Those are really important words. Why don't you circle or box in those words? No more than means it can't be more than that. So we can't go over 165. We can be equal to 165 or we can be less than 165, but we can't go over 165. So anytime you see the words no more than, think less than or equal to. Always. There won't be a time when it won't be that. Less than or equal to means no more than. All right, we're going to define a variable and we're going to write an inequality for the acceptable weights of the team members and we're going to graph it. So this will be pretty simple. We're going to pick a variable. I'm going to pick X. I just think that's pretty normal. And no more than, so that'd be less than or equal to 165 pounds. Okay? All right, so when you graph it, don't think you have to go by ones or or even that you have to start at 0, that 0 even has to be on the number line necessarily. With a high number like this, what you could do is maybe go start at 160 and work your way up. Maybe go by ones. Here's 161, 162, 163, 164. 165. And you can do that just showing a trend. You don't have to have 0 on your number line necessarily. Just take a piece of that line and kind of highlight it. And then find 165. We're going to do a filled in circle because it's equal to. And then where are all the numbers that are less than? What direction is that? And yeah, if you're thinking less, left, you are correct. That's exactly right. So the crew members can weigh no more than 165 pounds. So 165 pounds is the cap. That's the ceiling. We cannot go over that, but they can be smaller than that. And that's what it would look like on a number line, potentially. Okay? So here's your inequality, and here's your graph. Okay? The last one here, it says a store's employees earn at least $8.25 per hour. Define a variable and write an inequality for the amount the employees may earn per hour. So a store's employees earn at least $8.25 per hour. So here's the words we need to focus in on. At least. At least. So what we're saying, when we're saying the words at least, we are saying we can't make less than $8.25 an hour. So this is greater than or equal to. At least is greater than or equal to. So the lowest amount of money they can make is $8.25 per hour. They cannot make less, but they can make more than that. So we'll just take our X, that'll be how much money they'll earn per hour, and we'll say X is greater than or equal to $8.25. Okay, so you can do this a number of ways. You can show the decimal, you can just do whole numbers and estimate where the decimal is. It's really just your point of view and how you want to do it. So, some of you really super technical people, you may want to go $8.25, $8.50, $8.75. Like you may want to go up by quarters, okay? $9.25, $9.50, $9.75, and $10. You may want to go by quarters, some of you really uber technical people, or if you just want to go by whole numbers and estimate where that decimal is, that's fine too. So we're going to find $8.25, we're going to do a filled in circle, because it can be $8.25 an hour, can be, but we know it also could be more than that, so we want to go to the right and just show our arrow going that direction. Okay, so that's it for section 2.1. It should be pretty simple. It should be very familiar, just introduction to the concept of inequalities. All right, thank you for listening and bring your questions to class.